Hey everybody, Kim here with Lead Generation Source, and in this video I just kind of want to talk about inaction. I hear a lot of people talk about failure, and I think really what they're saying is I failed to act. And so I want to talk a little bit more about that. So many people actually quit before they even try. I hear this all the time. I failed. It didn't work. They lied to me. No one can make money doing this. When I dive deeper into the conversation with people, I get excuses like, well, I couldn't make it past week 3, and maybe it's a 5-week, 8-week, 12-week course. If you can't get it past week 3 and you're not completing the entire course. I didn't agree with what they were teaching. Oh my gosh, I cannot tell you how many times I hear this. And I'm like, well, what part do you not agree with? The part where they're telling you how to make money or what? And they're like, well, the strategy of it. And to be honest, yes, there are a lot of strategies out there that are questionable. But if you don't at least try the strategy, unless it's completely illegal, of course, but if you don't at least try the strategy and they're saying that's successful, then even if you don't agree with it, you're not trying, right? If they're saying, hey, this is the system to be successful, if you don't at least give that part a try, then you're just quitting. And then I hear people say, it just wasn't for me. What does that even mean? It just wasn't for me. You mean the part where you make money, or what part? And so I never really understand that. It just wasn't for me. I've never really understood that. And I've said that before in the past and started thinking about it and went, it was just my excuse of saying that I didn't do it. That was really what it was. So I heard other people say, I tried once and it didn't work, so it clearly doesn't work. And this is like a big one for Facebook ads. Now, I'm not a huge fan of Facebook ads, but I hear people all the time, I ran a Facebook ad once and it didn't work. Well, there is a learning curve to just about everything. So if you try it once and it doesn't work, it's probably because you haven't overcome that learning curve. And you probably need to try and try again. Just the facts of life, right? There's nothing we can do about that. Here's another one I get. I expected to make money within the first couple of weeks. I'm in a group right now. Well, I've been in the group for a while. But they started a new affiliate marketing program. And there are people that are seriously whining about 2 different programs that I'm in. And one of them is like, well, we're not making any money because we can't make any sales yet, even though they told us in advance that we weren't going to be making money until would look like the end of March. So now we can make money, and a lot of those people have left. They've left the program, they've quit, they've got their money back, whatever. And it's like, wait a second, manage your expectations here. I mean, there's in the other particular model, the affiliate marketing model, people are going, I didn't think that it would be so hard and I should be making money by now because I did all the work. And now I have to drive traffic to my pages. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what world do you live in that you think that you should buy a system and instantly start making money? And it seems to be that's the biggest thing is I don't have to try. And when I don't try and I don't get the results I want, I failed. But that's not even the right formula at all. Right, and that goes on to the next one. It was too hard, so I didn't even try. A lot of you, I get that a lot, especially when people they join a program and the first thing they have to do is build a website. Usually it's really easy, and they go, well, it's easy for you, Kim, because you know how to build websites. I'm like, you mean I know how to follow the instructions that are written out clear as day? Yes. I can follow the instructions that are written out clear as day. But yes, I do know how to build websites, so I may have a slight advantage. But that doesn't make it too hard, especially when they give you a play-by-play of exactly what you need to do with videos and all. That's excuses that I hear and I go, that's just an excuse, really? So, and then the last one I hear just all too often, and that is I didn't have the time to do it. When I talk to people and I'm trying to encourage them to do something, well, I just don't have time. Well, I don't know what else is taking up the time you're trying to do something. If it's a goal, then you should have time. You should make the time to do it. So I don't understand that I didn't have the time to do it or I didn't have the time to try. And I go, well, then you didn't fail. You just didn't do it. You just didn't even try. And so, like I said, not one of these excuses equals failure. At some point, we have to stand back and we need to look at our excuses and tell ourselves that making those excuses is just that. We're just making excuses. We really can't fail at something if we never try. And that is something that is talked about a lot, is that there's this fear of failure. If I try and I fail, then I'm going to feel bad, or people are going to make fun of me, or whatever that is. And so instead of trying it and possibly failing, they just don't try at all. Well, I decided it wasn't for me. I didn't want, I'll tell you what, there's the parallel profit system that I'm working on right now. I love the model. I think the business model is wonderful for helping small local businesses, or just local businesses in general. And while, I mean, there's definitely challenges to it. I had a family member, I won't say who, a family member come over. So obviously they don't live with me, or they live in the state. So they came over and they're like, I can't believe you're doing that. That's a total scam. And this came from a person who used to sell the same services like 10 years ago. And I'm like, wait a second, how is that? But that's the first thing that people do. Oh, it's a scam. Because it's something that they don't understand, or it's, well, you know what? That's fine. You can think what you want. I know it's not. And, I mean, I think that's what it is. We think too much about what other people think is happening, or what they are going to think. So we think, okay, if we try to do this and something happens that's bad, or something happens that is negative in some way, then the people in our lives are going to think less of us in some way. And, and that could be true, especially if you're doing something illegal or illegitimate. But if you're not, and you're being honest with what you do, and if you don't feel like you're being honest for some reason, I guess that's not for you. But I think a lot of us, especially in our group, we're a little too black and white on what is honest and not honest. There are things, and I've argued with this a lot, the ethics in business versus the legal elements. There's not all unethical things in business are illegal. And while that's not great, that there's a differentiation there. And so, there's a lot of people who are like, I don't like the MLM business. It's a pyramid scheme. It is, but what isn't? If you have somebody who manufactures a product and they sell it to somebody who's a wholesaler, and that wholesaler finds the people who sell at retail, everybody along the line is making money. That's the same concept of a pyramid scheme, other than in a true pyramid scheme, nobody's making money except for the top guy. So I get the illegal implications in that. But I mean, if you look at it from the truest of points, where, one person then makes money off the second person, makes money off the third person, that's pretty much the way every type of business works, right? You can't just buy something and give it away for the same price. You're never going to make any money. You're never going to be able to pay your rent, or your mortgage, or your insurance, or anything else. So think about that as, you don't necessarily have to look at it as a pass or fail when you try something. You just have to try it and say, instead of looking at it as I'm going to fail, look at it and say, I'm going to try something and then I'm going to learn from it, right? So I'm going to try Pinterest. I'm going to learn from it, and I'm going to see maybe where I have challenges, or where I can improve on something, or where I need help with more information on it. If you don't try, you can't get the feedback that you need to go to the next level. So, in fact, if we look at it as not doing something, if we're not taking action, we're not finishing the course, we're not taking the time to implement whatever process that we're learning about, these are all elements of quitting. Not failing, but quitting. If you truly have a challenge you cannot overcome, and you really have tried, then you need to seek help or alter your plan. This is a good example of this in my personal life is allergies. I have a lot of food allergies. My daughter has a lot of food allergies. And I made a plan, right? I made a plan, and actually we'll go on to the next slide real quick. Yeah, so I made a plan, and it just, actually they went after this, but anyway, so I made a plan and it just didn't work. So I had to go back and plan again, right? That's the way things go. So success doesn't come from luck. I was watching something the other day, it's probably a YouTube video, and they said the old saying, I make my own luck, right? I mean, I make my own luck. And the reality is that people who try, whether they succeed or fail, in anybody's perception, they're making their own luck. I mean, they're the ones that are taking action and saying, hey, I'm going to learn this, I'm going to master this in some way, or make a decision about it, right? And we've talked about this before, is that if you have 5 different marketing strategies and you decide that you only have time for one, you pick one, you test it. If you can't get reasonable results with the time that you have, maybe you pick another one. Ideally, you try to do all 5 at once for at least a short period of time, and you can start narrowing it down from there. But I know that doesn't work because if you don't have enough time, you're dividing it between 5 things, you're never going to get any results. But if you do your market research in advance, you'll know which ones are most likely, and you can probably narrow it down to the top 2. People who are successful rarely say they got lucky. Oh yeah, I'm successful because I was lucky. Yeah, I don't think I've ever heard anybody who's successful say that. Now, being in Texas, I will say that there is some element of that. As you meet the guy who has a 6th grade education and his dad struck oil and passed everything on, you're going, oh my gosh, but that's not success, right? That literally is luck. That's not necessarily success. And then you go, well, I don't feel so bad. He's got a wife that's spending everything she can and will probably work through all of the money. So karma, everything balances out, right? So most people who are successful frequently report that they work hard or they work strategic, and often this is, this is known as working smart. And I don't agree with that particular term because I don't think that people who work hard are not working smart. So I'd say working strategic instead, because I think there are plenty of people who are smart and maybe they need to do things a different way, right? Like I know my husband teases me all the time. He's like, you can't just clean it and be done. You have to clean it one time one way, and then you have to go behind it and clean it another way, and then go behind it and clean it another way. So something that should take me 10 minutes takes me 45 minutes. And it's just because that's the way I have to do it for me. And so I'm working hard, and in this case I'm working in my own strategic way, but I'm not working in the best strategic way. But that's what works for me. So I'm not going to say that I'm not dumb. I mean, I would think that a PhD would say that I'm not dumb, but I don't know. Maybe it does. And then some may say that they implement successful plans. So they've researched something, they created a plan, and then they implement it. Even successful people face challenges, one of which is the challenge of the same amount of time in each day, right? They don't have more time than we do. I know a lot of times we joke about finding more time or figuring it out, but that's a challenge everybody faces. The difference is that they take action, even if it's a little bit of action every day. I find myself when I'm working, I won't say side by side, but I'm working along the same path as other people, like in a program or something. I follow the rules, I follow the implementation of it, and eventually I may get tired of it or bored or decide that there's something breaks technology wise and I don't want to go back to it. But for the most part, I'm working on it a little bit every single day. I may not be making the most amount of progress every single day, but I'm making some sort of progress, and that's because my time is limited, and I do have a daughter that decides that her sleep patterns are going to be completely erratic lately, and that she's going to fight me about everything. So, hope and a growth spurt, by the way. So, I mean, we all have those challenges and those time constraints, right? I mean, when I get up and by the time I take a shower, feed my daughter, do the dishes, do some laundry, send a couple of emails, run to the post office, and then I get back and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon and I feel like I've got nothing done. And I've still got to sit down and do schoolwork with Cassandra and, get dinner. Well, I let my husband do dinner. I won't lie about that. I don't do dinner. He does it. There's all these things that I have to get done. And so my time is very limited. So sometimes I might, play a part of a webinar replay while I'm driving to the post office because it's a freaking 25-minute drive each way. So anyway, but taking action, doing something every day to move yourself forward, right? Let's see if I can move this the next way. So the road to success is always, that's a typo, is always under construction, right? No matter where you're at in your planning stage, whether you're in the idea stage, the planning stage, or the action stage, it all ends in action. You have to take action. So if you have an idea, you develop a plan of action, you take that action, you may need to go back, but without action, you cannot have progress. You can't. Here's the proof, right? Here's science for you. Newton's law states, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. So basically, if you were to extrapolate that out to other elements, to get a result, you need to have an action. It's just the way it is. You can't have any type of result without an action. I mean, I guess you could have a result from an inaction if you choose not to do something, but you really have to quit in order to not succeed. And that's the thing, is that just because you try something, it's not failure. You're just learning something. So, I've been thinking a lot about it, and I probably have talked about this a little bit before, but it's been something that's been really bugging me that I hear so many times. There's so many challenges that we face. Not taking action shouldn't be one of them. Even if it's just something small. And to me, my biggest challenge has been getting organized, right? I know I have limited time. So what are my top 3 things that I need to get done? Or what are my top 4 things that I need to get done? So I've got sticky notes everywhere, got whiteboards lined with tasks, and a lot of times those tasks never get touched because for one reason or another, maybe the technology just isn't there yet. I'm waiting on something from, for example, in Parallel Profits, we were waiting for stuff to be delivered to us, and so I was a week ahead. So then I just kept adding to the list, and then I went back and I looked at my list and I said, you know what? Half the stuff doesn't have to get done for success. In fact, 2/3 of it doesn't have to get done for success. So I asterisked the ones that are most important. I said, those are the ones I'm going to get done this week. And I'm well on my way to getting those done. So again, that goes back to, you have an idea, you create a plan, you take action. If there's something stopping you from taking action, you might need to look at that plan, right? You might need to look at other things in your life. You might need to, look at help from somebody or from a tool. We talk about tools a lot in Lead Generation Source because those do help us. And so many people are scared of software, and it just baffles me. But I grew up in a software age, right? I remember learning to type when I was like 6. So actually, we might have been younger. But anyway, I remember it back then. My sister and I both take turns. She was on it more than me, so she can actually type a little faster than me. But, just because we're exposed to it doesn't mean it's that scary or anything else. And I will tell you, I've deleted plenty of files. I've crashed a lot of computers. I have crashed a lot of systems in my life. I've found problems that nobody ever knew existed. When I worked at a university and a foundation, I worked in the accounting department, and I once found a problem that caused them to spend 4 days with the computer shut down. Well, with the software program shut down, because the issue I had found was ongoing and had been ongoing and an inherent issue. These things happen. You're never going to have a perfect software. Even a side note here, even Microsoft was once chastised by the government for releasing Microsoft products to the general public and even to the government before they were finalized. So they had vulnerabilities in them. In fact, one year we had to shut down all of our computers government-wide because they had uploaded all the new Microsoft stuff, and there was an exploit in it that somebody had found. Well, somebody had released the exploit publicly, and it wasn't just us. It wasn't just our government. It was governments nationwide. And if they had turned on the computers, any of the ones that got turned on ended up having major data breaches. This was back in the early 2000s. So, these things happen. There's nothing you can do about it. So don't be scared of software. You may have to take some time to learn it, and that can be scary too. Trust me, as somebody who's just finished up a PhD, anything about learning is I'm like, oh my gosh, my brain can't handle it. But at the same time, I know it can. And I know that everybody in our group that I've interacted with so far is extremely intelligent. In fact, I don't think I've met anybody that I go, they're never going to make it in an online world. I'd say most people can, if not all people can. Now, there's maybe a couple people. I know a couple of Luddites that I don't think, Luddite means scared of technology, that wouldn't necessarily make it. But the point is that you need to take action. And I want you to take action. I want you to be successful. That's why we do Lead Generation Source. We want you to, find the path that's going to help you progress. We don't teach anything in here that is going to be like, oh yeah, make $1 million in 60 seconds. We don't do any of that. What we do is we talk about strategies that can help you improve whatever marketing you need. So if a lot of us are in e-commerce, some of us do other things as well, and lead generation is a good one. And there are different kinds of strategies for each one of us. And, as you go through, you may learn about a strategy and go, that doesn't really work for me. Like my local SEO stuff doesn't really work in Pinterest. But the e-commerce and anything online anything that's nationwide or global even is great for Pinterest. You've got a huge market there. And keeping that in mind, so that's with each of them, whether you're on Facebook or Instagram or YouTube, it just depends on what you want to do and what you're comfortable with. Now, just because you're not comfortable with something doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. You should consider expanding beyond your comfort zone, because if what did they say? The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. So it's time to make some changes. It's time to take some actions in the right direction. And I know time's always an issue. So I actually need to find an article for you guys on that, by the way. I'll have to find it. All right, so what action are you going to take? I've kind of expressed my concern about all of the different excuses and things I've heard. And it's not from anybody in specific. So if you're like, oh my gosh, I said one of these, Kim's talking about me. I'm not talking about anybody in specific, to be honest. I heard it from somebody else, from people not in our group. And I started thinking about it going, I've heard some people say some of these as well in our group. And it got me a little bit concerned that I'm like, hey, you guys, you can succeed. You can improve. You can do something. I'm not going to lie. You're going to have challenges. We all are. My daughter had an allergic reaction over the weekend. It killed an entire day and a half for me and my husband. So we got a lot of stuff that we didn't get done. But that's life, and we just pivot and we keep going. We find what action we can take and keep going. So what action will you take? We've covered a lot of different marketing strategies in lead generation source. Which strategy are you going to try? Maybe you're going to try more than one. Maybe you just want to focus on one for now. I'm fairly confident, with the exception of a few niches that don't know anything about, but most of the niches I've heard about, you should be able to find either on Instagram or Pinterest. Those are the two that I would say you should consider exploring. And that's because Facebook has changed too many elements of their algorithm. Now, Facebook does own Instagram, and Instagram may be subject to those changes, but both Pinterest and Instagram seem to be pretty good at building following right now. With the exception of some niches, we talked about basket weaving in general, you may not want to worry about. You may have to find a completely different strategy for that, and one I can't, Google Ads maybe, but anyway. So, check your niche, make some determinations on where you're going to be, and we've talked about that before, and we'll probably talk about it again. So if you haven't already signed up for your free lead generation source membership, you can get access to several free marketing courses. Of course, I know a lot of people in our Facebook group already have this, but if you're on YouTube and you're watching this and you haven't heard of us, we have some courses that we set up we have 2 levels right now. We've got our silver membership, which is completely free. You just sign up and the system will eventually email you details, but you get to set them all up to start with. So you just go to leadgenerationcampaign.com. Don't ask why they're different. I'm working on changing that. But there's a link in the description. Then if you're not already a member of the Facebook group, come join us in the Lead Generation Source Facebook group. And I've also included a link in the description for that. So, that's what we're here for. We're here to help each other, right? That's what the whole goal of this is. I know we don't get a whole lot of speakers on, and that's mostly because all I have is people who want to promote their product. But we have a lot of us that are testing things and reporting information, and I try to incorporate as much of that as I can. I, of course, try to test things every week and bring you some sort of details, even if I don't have the time to do as much depth as I want to. And that's because it helps me also, right? Doing all those things, making sure I take action, that helps. So maybe if we want to implement something where everybody has to report back on something, I know that's scary for some of you, but you don't have to report to the group. You could always just send me a little message, or we could put it in, I don't know, somewhere where it's anonymous. I don't know, just some thoughts. But let me know what you guys think. Include some comments if you can. If you can, like the video and share it, subscribe, etc. I'm going to try to build the lead generation source YouTube videos more. We're here to help, and I feel like there's so much information out there that's coming out right now that is fragmented. It's so fragmented, and I'm guilty of this too, where I throw out some information and I'm like, was that right? I don't know. I need to go back and do some research. So I do like to do that, so I will, I'll do the research and get back to you guys. So anyway, this has been well longer than I had planned on it. But please, again, share, like, subscribe, join us in the Facebook group, and make sure if you haven't already, sign up for your free membership. And let me know if you have any questions. And most of the people end up reaching me through Facebook, just so you guys know. Messenger from Facebook. Or you can just start commenting and leaving your questions in the group as well. Either way. Thanks again, everybody, and we'll see you in the group.